Detective Comics 576, Mike W. Barr writing with Todd McFarlane on art. This is the second chapter of Batman Year 2, perhaps the more notable the Bat stories this episode. And we have the Reaper, of course. And again, I was very impressed how well I remembered the first part of this, because this is a first time read for both of us. We hadn't read Batman Year 2 before. Because there was a lot of discussion about the ending of the first part where he pulls out the gun and this is the choice he's making. So it was very interesting to get to this one to see how he actually used it. He's training with it in the cave. Leslie's appalled that he's even considering using a gun. There's a voice of reason trying to talk to him, and he's not listening to her. To the point where he kind of, has a bit of a breakup with Gordon over it, where he's like, Gordon, you're going to hate me for what I'm about to do, but no, I do it out of love and friendship and whatever. But Gordon snaps his pipe later because he's so mad that the Batman has shot a gun out of his hand.
Yeah, was that pipe a gift from
I think
Batman?
it was, yeah.
I feel like it was. That was something that kind of felt like it was in my memory as I was reading that moment.
Yeah, I will say the art here is pretty good. I mean, I don't think McFarlane's great for everything, but as soon as I started this. Right, and I read this right after I read Batman 409, which had fine art. It was, it was of its time. It's typical. But I got to this one. Oh, this is a bit bolder. I'm liking the coloring a bit more, especially.
I think it's. I think maybe it probably helps that it's been a while since we'd read the previous issue of this, because I remember the previous issue's art being phenomenally good.
Yeah,
I remember loving
artist.
it a lot more. Yes, exactly.
Yes.
And Tom McFarlane, is probably, is pretty well respected in stuff like this, and it's definitely not bad. It's definitely pretty good, but it's also a step down as well at the same time for this story.
Yeah, just goes to show that all the complaining you do in modern comics of not keeping an artist on a single arc, this was a problem in 1987 as well. So
it's still, I'm still gonna complain about it.
You can still complain about it, but it's nothing new.
I know. I never said it was new. But in terms of art critiques, there are definitely some strange faces in this. That there's a bit where Alfred's bringing out the Batsuit, and Bruce is there with a big giddy smile on his face almost. Mm-hmm. There's a handful of panels like that where the faces just look off.
Yeah, so we get some backstory here. Caspian has a little flashback to his Crime Alley style moment where his wife was shot and killed by a burglar. He was shot himself as well and spent some time in a wheelchair. So we see him sort of the funeral and the aftermath of it.
I actually really like these pages with the art. So you have him in the background, and it's in this reddish pink, and then all the panels telling the flashback are all in this blue hue. And it's really fun. It just makes it really clear that it's a flashback. Just good, strong storytelling with the colors.
Yeah, because I guess they're both very kind of monotone with their color. Whereas when you come back to the actual present day scene, it's very vivid. There's a lot of different colors. You get the green walls with the blue floor with the blonde hair.
It's a lot more natural, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a lot more going on. But basically, there's multiple criminals in this issue that the Reaper goes hunts down and kills. First one's right at the start, and then there's a sort of SWAT team trying to protect the guy. It does not work, and the Reaper gets his man. Then later in the issue, though, this is where Batman intervenes with the gun. There's a guy arriving, a mob boss arriving by plane, and that kind of what sets that up. Meanwhile, Bruce, young Miss Caspian, he goes to, because remember she's becoming a nun, and I remember. If you'd asked me before I read this, I wouldn't have remembered it. But as soon as it showed her with the habit, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. She's becoming a nun. That was the thing. Bruce tried to ask her out. And
yeah, it was a whole thing.
She's becoming a nun. And he sort of because Leslie's in hiding now, she doesn't want to go out, he shows up for their lunch date and is like, oh sorry, Leslie couldn't make it, so I'm here in her place. And I'm like, very presumptuous of you, Bruce. You've kind of just sort of trapped her on a lunch date without her having a say in it. Pretty
much, yeah.
And it's kind of funny at the end of the scene where this does the drop the ice cream as the kiss moment, but her logic here, as she sort of makes this choice, is that he reminds her of her father and how lonely he is, and maybe she should give up the idea. I mean, she doesn't say contextualize all of this, but the idea being that, oh, maybe it's not too late to not become a nun and become your wife instead, so you won't go down the same sad path as my father. It's a very interesting line of thinking.
Yeah, it's a weird thing as well. It's nothing about it being good for her. It's more just, oh,
Yes.
I don't want you to be lonely.
Yeah. That's kind of the main thing that sticks out to me about it. It's not that she has feelings for him necessarily. I mean, maybe a little in the sense that she cares that he'll be lonely. I mean, that's carrying at least a little bit, but
I'm sure there was obviously some attraction between them.
not
Yeah,
that
that was
she's
there.
in love with him. And you know what? I'm making a mistake by going down this path. I want to go down this path instead. This feels more like for the benefit of him than her,
Yes.
and that is an interesting and very selfless to the point of like not harm's not the right word, but selfless to the point of detriment.
It's self detrimental. Yeah, I think the more obvious answer is just terrible male writing in the 80s.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I do wonder if this is in particular intentional though, but you may be right. It may just be dodgy white dude writing.
Yeah, I think it's just middle-aged dude doesn't know how to write women.
It could entirely be that. But I'm trying to give it the benefit of doubt and analyzing her character and why she's making this choice. But
I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe you've got it. You nailed it.
yes, I do think the art when Batman comes to see Gordon is very good, and it's just that one lamp.
All the shadows is really nice. Yeah.
It's the one lamp. So you've got the yellow light of the lamp and the lighter, but it's all the blacks and the blues of the shadows for the rest of the scene.
Nice flowing cape.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that sticks out in the coloring is obviously Batman's got his blue cape, Reaper's mostly in red with the black cape. But whenever they're fighting, they tend to be against a different variety of backgrounds. Sometimes it's a yellow background, sometimes it's a red background, sometimes it's a yellow background. But they two always stick out in the panel, and that really stuck out to me. I mean, the best panel of the whole issue actually might be Gordon right before he snaps the pipe. He's in like sort of the yellow headlights of a car or something like that, but everything behind him is blue, but he's in ultra shadow.
I think that
really
sequence is the best art of the issue. That and then the close up of him, looking at the pipe and then snapping it and just leaving it on the floor, and that's still lit up in the foreground, and he's walking away and he's all in the blue now. I think those 4 panels are just fantastic.
Yeah. To sum up what Batman's actually done in this scene, not only did he shoot a gun out of Gordon's hand, he then essentially kind of took the target, Reaper's target, and I don't want to say kidnapped necessarily, but sort of took him under his own custody, away from the police, not cooperating with Gordon, not communicating why he's doing what he's doing, which is why Gordon's so pissed. So the final scene of the book, though, is that Batman, again, making some more questionable choices, goes to the mob bosses of Gotham who are all livid about Reaper, and Reaper's like ruining business, their profits are down 40%, whatever it is, and Batman shows up, and they fight him at first, but Batman tries to make it clear, I'm not here to fight you, I'm actually here because Reaper is a problem for me too, and maybe we could work together to get rid of Reaper, it's in all of our benefit. And this is all a little bit contrived that Batman would want to work with the mob bosses, and it's all for the cliffhanger where they say, okay, but you have to work with our man who's our assassin, and they bring out Mr. Joe Chill, and that's the cliffhanger, is that Batman has to work with Joe Chill.
Yeah, I hate this significantly more than the using the gun thing, because I get I think we spoke about this a lot in the first issue of this, where we were okay with the gun thing because we're assuming that's going to be the story of him, reaffirming that I can't do this.
It's going to be a lesson he learns. It's got a narrative point. It's fine.
Yeah. Whereas this just feels like, oh, Joe Chill, let's make him work together, with his parents' killer. It's like, that just feels a lot cheaper.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still morbidly into the story, and I definitely want to read the next one to see what they do with this, but I don't know if I like it necessarily. It's kind of...
Yeah, I mean, it's a good job you want to read it, because you were going to anyway.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to it anyway, but... Like, I'm not like in a mood about... Like, I'm not... Because sometimes I dread... Like, look at Azrael's Wonder Woman. I dread every issue of that, and I always put it off till last. I don't feel that way about this. I'm actually like, oh, I can't wait to read what they do with this shit.
I'm definitely morbidly curious about this. And honestly, the rest of the issue, up till this point, I think is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
It's only this one moment I'm not really a fan of. It doesn't put me off the series going forward. I'm hoping they're maybe only working together for issue 3, and then issue 4 will be just, back to normal, and we can focus on Bruce and his gun problem, maybe.
Yeah, Yeah. Yeah. So we'll see. It's interesting though, because this obviously presents Joe Chill as still very much an active member of the crime world in Gotham, and obviously, I mean, this will actually be closer to like not his first appearance, but closer to the traditional Joe Chill. But I'm used to Joe Chill from modern comics. I'm used to Joe Chill from the movies or whatever. I'm used to all these Joe Chills where he's either been in prison or he's older and maybe more of a coward, and he's not presented as anything intimidating. Whereas here, when he comes out and it's like, oh, he's our man who kills people for us. Like they're presenting him as like he's still kind of a tough bad guy.
I think my concern is the implication that he's the guy who goes and kills the people we want to, which is is this the story that no, the Waynes were killed for a reason rather than it being a random thing.
I don't get from this issue that they're going down that path. Now, that's not to say they won't, because it does feel like a cheap story beat to play. But I don't think they're doing that. I could be wrong though. We'll find out.
I hope not. If they do, I will dock a point off for it.
I mean, if they do go down that path, there'll be a reason why everyone doesn't like Batman Year 2, which we've not quite gotten to yet.
Yeah, we were assuming it was the gun thing, but
well, I know
not.
The gun thing's definitely part of it, but like Batman Year 2's reputation is not that great, and
yeah,
I like the first issue quite a bit, and I like most of this issue.
No, me too, actually. Yeah, I think it's still a pretty solid issue.
The final scene is just a bit contrived to get to this, he has to work with Joe Chill nonsense, but it could lead to some entertainment. So, so we'll see. What are you giving Detective Comics 576?
I'm gonna give it a 7, knocking half a point off for the ending.
I can't go 7. I gave Batman 409 a 7, and I feel like this is a better issue in a number of different ways. So I think I have to at least give it a 7.5. I'm even tempted to give it the 8. Yeah, because I do actually really like a lot of the scenes in this. So I'm going to go with the 8. There's a lot of scenes, Gordon snapping his pipe, the training with the gun, I think is actually quite well done. The Reaper backstory stuff, like honestly, I was kind of into reading that a lot. It's just there's just Batman's decision to work with the mob just feels really contrived at the end. Is my only real big thing.
I'm
with
you
it.
on that.
And I think the art is quite good. It maybe just suffers, and it's not as amazingly paced as the last issue was. But because I think it was the layouts more than anything. I think the last issue, if I remember right, that was
they were
really
phenomenal.
Good. And presumably the artist is back for maybe the next issue. So we'll see how that fares.
We can hope.